Hi everyone, my name is Alice Mouton and I'm one of the ERGA pilot project coordinator with Anne Cartney and Giulio Formenti. So the ERGA pilot project is part of the ERGA consortiums that aims to generate a reference genome for all the eukaryotic species in Europe in long term. And so to demonstrate the effectiveness and the efficiency of generating this genome in a collaborative manner, the pilot project was established, funded entirely or partially by its member. So when we started these projects in 2021, the idea was to complete at least one high-quality reference genome for each ERGA-associated countries, and this genome should meet the Earth BioGenome Project's assembly quality. So as a suggestion, we provided guidelines, so to aim for like small genome size, easy to collect, where permits would be quite fairly easy to obtain, and so on. So of course, to have one species for each ERGA-associated countries, we ended up with 101 species in 35 countries. And of course, the idea of the project, the pilot projects, is to build these pan-European genomic infrastructures where everyone can feel included, from sample collection to publication. So we have trans-border multidisciplinary genome teams where samples can happen in the countries and the assembly in others, of course, always being in compliance with the ABS requirements. So the ERGA pilot cycle is kind of starts always with the permits and then with the sample metadata collection, the biobanking, DNA extraction, data sharing, genus assembly, data analysis, and research communication. And I will just go through the first 3 points, and then Anne McCartney will continue the presentation. So regarding the first 3 steps, permitting, sample collection, and processing, so the pilot projects has worked in partnership with Sample and the Species Processing Committee in ERGA, and also the LZ ERGA Committee, a data brokering system named COPO, and the Barcelona supercomputer to establish a robust metadata collection infrastructure. So the goal of this metadata collection infrastructure is to support the genome teams in providing like comprehensive, fair and care metadata for all the data produced during the pilot, and all samples ambassadors are expected to complete the metadata manifest, including the permit information, and submit this manifest through the data brokering system COPO and then the ENA.
Alice. I will now walk you through step 4 and 5, which starts with library preparation and sequencing. So each one of our 101 species participating in the pilot project, our mission was to reach the EBP genome assembly standard. To do so, we ensured that all species participating had access to long-read sequencing technology and proximity ligation technology. Most of the species participating also had access to annotation data. As Alice mentioned at the start of the talk, although the pilot project was a grassroots effort, really driven by the time and the financial resources of the participants themselves, the sample ambassadors. And so this slide is just to highlight that although biodiversity is quite equally distributed across Europe, the gross national income and investment in research and development is not so equally distributed. And so, although sample providers may have wanted to participate, they may not have had the financial capability to do so. To ensure that we were including and representing any sample provider that wanted to participate in the pilot project, we reached out to commercial partners highlighted here in the bottom of the screen, and also we had volunteers to conduct the library preparations from individuals across Europe for both the RNA-seq library preps and the high-seq library preps. So a huge amount of work. I just want to highlight the magnitude of the amount of work that these library preparations hubs conducted. 16, if we focus in on RNA-seq specifically, our current status is that 16 species has been sent to the genomics lab in Florence. These are from 10 countries. Over 36 libraries were prepared by our coordination hubs, producing 1,498 million paired end reads for the RNA sequencing data for these species. Now, I would just like to highlight that most of our long read sequencing has been contributed by these sequencing centers participating in the pilot project. And I will give a brief update of the sequencing status and assembly status for across some of these sequencing centers. So to start with Genoscope in France, they had 11 species participating across 16 countries, with 6 countries, they now have 3 completed genome assemblies and 2 assemblies currently in progress. Next, we have the Earlham Institute in the UK, which had 5 species with samples provided with genome teams from across 7 countries, 1 completed genome, and 4 assemblies in progress. Next, we have CNAG in Spain, which were handling 7 species across 2 countries. They have 4 completed genomes and 3 assemblies in progress. Next, we have SciLife Lab in Sweden, who are handling 5 species across 2 countries and 4 assemblies are now in progress. Next is the Genomics Lab in Florence, and as I mentioned before, they're handling a magnitude of sequencing and for the pilot project. If we focus on the long read sequencing technology specifically, they are handling 13 species across 9 countries and they have 5 assemblies currently in progress. Now, next is the German initiative, and they are handling 5 German species, and all 5 of these species have assemblies in progress. Next is the Swiss initiative, which also have 5 Swiss species in progress and 5 assemblies in progress also. Finally is the Wellcome Sanger Institute, who are handling 19 species across 10 countries with 9 assemblies in progress. And if you focus on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, we are highlighting the Aristotle catfish, which was provided by Ileana Bista, which is the first pilot genome to enter into the European Nucleotide Archive. We wanted to ensure that every single genome team participating also was supported to meet the EBP quality, assembly quality standard. To do so, we issued a set of assembly recommendations covering both Hi-Fi and ONT data. After a draft assembly was achieved by the genome team, they then followed our QC, standardized QC approach, and this was where the draft assembly was presented to the sequencing and assembly committee for feedback. On integration of the feedback and issuance of the final genome assembly is then sent forward to the grit curation team in the Sanger and subsequent upload to the ENA. We've learned a lot from the pilot project so far, and as we move towards scaling this up for all of ERGA as we move forward, we've learned some valuable lessons. The pilot project was unfunded, and so much of the work done at its initiation was manual through a lot of Google spreadsheets. As we move forward, we want to ensure that as our distributed network grows, we want to ensure that all samples entered into sequencing can be monitored and tracked in real time across our sequencing partners. This is to provide transparency and clarity to those who have provided those samples to the ERGA project long term. Next, we want to ensure that we are documenting and tracking where the biosample information is associated with all of our species, as well as the bioproject ID and the ENA, and also the annotations. And for this, the EBI have built this wonderful data portal to track this information. Finally, we want to ensure that we're disclosing all of our species that are becoming part of the ERGA network to reduce the amount of redundancy, but also to encourage collaborations into the future. Finally, I would like to thank all of the pilot project participants for both their time and their financial resources that they put towards this huge success of this pilot project. I would like to thank our informatics and infrastructure experts that have helped build this genomics infrastructure for all. I would like to thank our commercial partners and the sequencing centres that have been really committed to achieving the goals of the pilot project so far. I'd like to thank the ERGA committees, the ERGA Council and the ERGA chairs. And lastly, I would like to thank you for your attention, and please, we are welcome any questions that you may have.